So the topic is embedding indigenous arts in preschool aesthetic curricula, projects, learning areas, and intergenerational learning. And let me show you the map of the 16 indigenous peoples in Taiwan. And as the professor said, that there will be another 2 ethnic groups, number 17 and 18. So now there are 16 indigenous peoples who live in Taiwan. And some of them live in the central and eastern Taiwan. And as the professor said, many of them moved to the urban because of some financial for the job or the financial problem. And in the past, indigenous peoples were required to learn Mandarin Chinese at schools. But nowadays, with the awakening of indigenous education in Taiwan, indigenous languages and cultural heritage are valued at indigenous schools. So there are some indigenous schools located in the mountains and also including the preschools. Okay, and aesthetic education has also been promoted in the past decade in Taiwan. The aesthetic domain is integrated into the preschool curriculum, and the beauty of indigenous arts and culture can be experienced through aesthetic curricula. However, in my previous research, some preschool educators had some difficulties integrating indigenous arts and culture into their aesthetic teaching, such as the insufficiency of cultural resources and aesthetic teaching guidance. And as the professor in the last section mentioned, that some of them don't have enough stories. So she is very kind to offer this kind of cultural resources for them. And in my research, I found that some preschool teachers would invite their children to create their stories by themselves. So I think it's also a good way to promote that. And as for their problem, the one is insufficiency of cultural resources and aesthetic teaching guidance. So in order to help them to solve the problem, I led educators in 2 preschools to conduct the collaborative action research. Okay, and this is the research purpose. The purpose of this study to explore how preschool educators embedded indigenous arts in preschool aesthetic curricula to enhance young children's aesthetic abilities and ethnic identity. So there are 2 research questions. First, how did the preschool educators embed indigenous arts in their preschool aesthetic curricula? And second, what was the influence of preschool aesthetic curricula on children's aesthetic abilities and ethnic identity? And methodology. Collaborative action research was employed in this study, and I spent 5 months to collect the data and served as a curriculum consultant and supporter. As for the setting, there were 2 indigenous preschools in the mountains in the south of Taiwan. Case 1 was an immersive Taiwan language class in Pingtung. The participants were 4 preschool teachers and 22 Taiwan children aged 4 to 5. Among these preschool teachers, there was 1 Han people, and others are Taiwan teachers. And as for case 2, it was an immersive Ganaganafu language class in Kaohsiung. And I would like to share the different ethnic groups in this area. There are Ganaganafu and Bunong. Bunong is the professor, yes. Okay, and it's very interesting that in this mixed ethnic group, the Bunong children have to learn Ganaganafu language together with them. It is because actually in this area, there are more people, there are more Bunong people, but there are only like 300 something of Ganaganafu people. And in order to preserve their language, so they decided to have 2 immersive language class. One is for Bunong, and the other one is for Ganaganafu. But in this case, they still need the Ganaganafu class, so they put them together just with fewer Bunong students in this class. Okay, and they are aged 3 to 5. And as for the teachers, among the 3 preschool teachers, there is one Ganaganafu teacher, and the other 2 are Han people. I'm sorry, one is Han, and the other one is SIDEC. SIDEC teacher is from the central Taiwan, and it's very interesting that this teacher also has good ability of Ganaganafu language. As I remember yesterday we met a teacher who is Amis people, right? And but she teaches in Daya language kindergarten. Okay, so it's interesting that we have to learn languages, different languages from different ethnic groups. I think it's good for us to learn. Okay, and this is the collaborative action research cycle, including plan, action, observation, and reflection. And data sources, data analysis, and triangulation are presented here. As for the assessment of children's aesthetic abilities and their interview questions of their ethnic identity, they were designed based on the relevant research and were reviewed by the experts and preschool teachers. Due to the limited time, let's look at the results. First, embedding indigenous arts in preschool aesthetic curricula. Case 1, the integration of Taiwan arts and culture into a project and intergenerational learning. The teachers applied a project approach to integrating Taiwan arts and culture into the aesthetic curriculum on the theme of grandchildren of grandparents. They designed a curriculum based on aesthetic domain of curriculum guidelines, especially the 3 aspects: exploring and perceiving, performing and creating, and responding and appreciating. And they applied the 3 arts media: visual arts, drama play, and music. In the learning process, they guided the children to explore the arts and culture of the tribe, learn traditional arts from the elders, and create and appreciate artworks. The project culminated in the drama performance with Taiwan songs and art exhibition. Let me show you one example. This activity is related to the learning indicators in performing and creating aspect, such as applying various visual arts materials and tools to create artworks. So as in their teaching, the teachers took the children to learn traditional carving from an elder carving expert in the tribe. Since carving was too difficult for them, the expert suggested that they first learn to bend aluminum wire, as shown in this picture. And then the teachers provided aluminum wire and tools for the children in the art and craft learning area in the classroom. As for children's art creation, first, they make the plan. The children observed the Romanized spelling of their house names and planned to shape the Roman letters using aluminum wire. And second, identify the problem. They were unable to bend the wire to match the shape of each Roman letter, so the teachers encouraged them to solve the problem. For example, student 9 suggested writing the house name on the paper, then placing the wire over the letters and bending it. As shown in the first 2 pictures, you can see letter A created by the children. And finally, they attached the aluminum wire artwork to a small wooden board, as shown in the 3rd picture. And this is the final product of their artwork in their art exhibition. Okay, let's look at case 2, the infusion of Ganaganafu arts and culture into learning areas and intergenerational learning. As shown in the picture, you can see 6 learning areas in the classroom: role play, block, math, language, art and craft, and construction area. The teachers also designed a curriculum based on aesthetic domain of curriculum guidelines and infused the indigenous arts into art and craft area, role play area, and intergenerational learning activities, especially music. Let me show you some examples. Example 1, art and craft area, 3-stage guidance style in threading beads. In the first stage, the teachers invited the children to touch different beads, feel the texture, and thread beads in their own way. This activity is related to exploring and perceiving aspect. And then they provided the second stage. They encouraged the children to follow the order of colors in threading, especially the 6 colors of Ganaganafu, which represents the 6 surnames of families. And they also invited children to refer to the pictures of products such as bracelets and necklaces. And this activity is also related to performing and creating aspect. And finally, in the third stage, the teachers invited the children to design a picture of a product and follow it in threading beads. This is the example of child force bracelets. The teachers usually provided encouraging words in their learning process, and this activity is also related to performing and creating aspect. Example 2, intergenerational learning. This preschool usually invited the community elders to participate in their intergenerational learning. As shown in this picture, you can see some elders sitting here, and the children and the teachers sitting here. And the intergenerational learning usually ended in singing. The children and the elders sang Ganaganafu songs accompanied on the teacher's drum. And they enjoyed the music in a pleasant atmosphere. And this is also related to performing and creating aspect. In response to the second research question, let's look at the influence of the curricula on children's aesthetic abilities and ethnic identity. Okay, so let me go it through faster. And as for the children's aesthetic abilities, Table 1 shows the significant differences in the children's aesthetic abilities in case 1. The mean scores of performing and creating is higher, while those for exploring and perceiving are lower. And Table 2 shows the significant differences in children's aesthetic abilities. The mean score of performing and creating is higher, and while those for exploring and perceiving and responding and appreciating are a little bit lower. As for children's ethnic identity, Table 3 shows the percentages of the positive answer of children's ethnic identity interviews in case 1. And the percentage in the post-interviews go up, which means the children enhanced their ethnic identity. However, the question of number 2 remained the same at 100%. So the children were already proud of being Taiwan. And the Table 4 shows the percentages of positive answer of Ganaganafu children's ethnic identity interviews. Again, the percentages in post-interview go up, which means the children enhance their ethnic identity. However, the result of question 3 and 4 remain the same. It could be related to children's habits and preferences. And conclusion, time's up. Can I go quickly? Okay, the first one, the teachers embedded the local indigenous arts and culture into the aesthetic curricula through a project, learning areas, and intergenerational learning. And in comparison, the teachers in the case 1 provided more opportunities for problem solving, and children learned traditional arts for elders as a part of a project that incorporated intergenerational learning. And teachers in case 2 provided different guidance styles in learning areas, and children regularly engaged in traditional singing with elders through intergenerational activities. And the teachers designed the curricula based on aesthetic domain of curriculum guidelines. They provided more guidance in performing and creating. And second, in terms of curricular influence, children at both preschools demonstrated improvements in their aesthetic abilities, especially the aspect of performing and creating, and they also improved their ethnic identity. And finally, recommendations. For early childhood educators, first, they are encouraged to provide more opportunities for children to explore and perceive the environment and respond to and appreciate the arts, such as guiding the children to explore the tribal environments with the elders and raising 5WH questions, 5 senses, and making the cultural meaning with their artwork. And second, to improve the skills of aesthetic teaching guidance, such as attending some workshops and do more self-reflection on their teaching. And for future research, future researchers can explore aesthetic experiences of indigenous children and elders in the intergenerational learning through the arts. And this is what I did last year. And they can also explore multicultural learning of indigenous children from different ethnic groups in a mixed ethnic class.